And I am going to make a decision that some people will appreciate and some people, I'm betting, won't.
Oh, dear.
But it's, we have a policy of trying not to let one caller monopolize the show if they call back week after week. But, I haven't heard from this guy in a while, and I kind of miss him. So, sorry to the people who are not going to be fans of the last 15 minutes of the show, but Hamish, how you doing, buddy?
Russell Glassburn, nice to speak to you again.
Good to talk to you. What do you disapprove of today?
Actually, I called with a grave disapproval, and I first of all disapprove of your jovial attitude towards it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hamish.
Hamish,
I'm very
just
sorry to hear from you.
Hamish, before you jump in there, do you have a stream playing in the background?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
Because I hear an echo.
We're echoing
coming in the background. Like, you're not echoing, but we are.
This better.
Maybe.
This better.
It's quieter now.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's
so
all right.
We'll live with it.
What I called to discuss was the disgusting rise I have seen over the past year of demagoguery throughout the world, and how I feel it reveals that there are fewer atheists than you might believe.
Okay.
Because even the atheists
that's two different subjects.
to their idols.
I think.
They're filthy celebrities like Donald Trump and Sam Harris.
Don't pin Donald Trump on us, okay?
Okay, thanks.
I mean, I'm just going to say that Donald Trump actually had the backing of a larger share of evangelical Christians than any politician has gotten in decades. So while some atheists are disagreeing about this, like, we aren't necessarily the ones primarily responsible for voting for him. Okay?
Atheists worship others like Sam Harris and Kim Kardashian.
I don't worship Sam Harris, I'm telling you that.
You may not, Russell.
Okay.
But you are in a minority, and I feel that this reveals that many who call themselves atheists just spite God and they worship their idols.
Okay, I don't think you're right.
No.
Do you actually talk to other atheists when you're not calling this show? Like, do you know many people?
I encounter people who claim to be atheists all the time.
Okay, like face to face or on the internet or what?
Yes, face to face.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know a friend whose son has posters on his wall of celebrities who he prays to.
What? I'm sorry?
I don't believe you.
Yeah, that.
Not in so many words, but
what
the feeling is the same.
I mean, praying to somebody is a very specific claim.
Versus just
what do you
admiration
mean not in
of
so many words?
The same sort of admiration or reverence that is shown to famous footballers.
Okay, I don't know anyone who prays to famous footballers either.
Their images. You do not seem to be taking my gripe seriously, Russell.
Well, it doesn't sound like a very serious claim that you're making. You seem to exaggerate a lot.
You might feel that it is exaggerated, but you have a son, do you not, Russell?
Yeah.
Does he not have heroes?
I'm trying to think. I mean, he has people he's into. I mean, man, I should know better.
No Dad of the Year award to you.
No, not to me. I mean, let's see. He was.
Telling me that you do not know your own son's heroes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know he has authors that he really admires. It's been a few years since the Hunger Games. I think he's moved on past that, but he really dug Suzanne Collins and also Jennifer Lawrence, which I don't blame him for. He's a big fan of the game League of Legends, and I imagine that he follows a number of streamers. I'm not personally into that one, but...
Whoa. Rude.
But I mean, I don't think that he has anyone he worships and prays to. That's way outside my experience with him.
Does he never invoke their names while dreaming or before a game?
No.
Invoke their names?
No.
Look at the amount of attention and adulation that our society affords certain people.
I'm not completely ignorant of what he does during a game. I've watched him and played with him over a headset before, because we're in separate rooms. I mean, I've never noticed him saying, "Oh, great and holy, badass 729 or whatever."
No.
I'm going to have to Google a famous League of Legends player. But you're saying things about my son that you don't actually know and aren't true in my experience.
That may be so for your son.
Soren Bjerg. I'm sure all the League of Legends players out there will squee now.
There is evidence of the immense and enormous adulation and worship that celebrities receive in today's culture.
Well, like I said, a lot of self-described Christians do that.
So is your problem people's admiration that they show towards celebrities and their deference to them? Was that your
the instinct? Right? The instinct to worship is innate to all.
You know what? I think maybe we actually got some common ground here. Because I think that it is actually generally a very unhealthy attitude to put all your trust in particular individuals who may be famous or loud or powerful. I think a certain amount of healthy skepticism for whoever you're dealing with, including the two of us, certainly, is very healthy. So. I'm actually willing to agree with you on this. If you know people who act like that and worship, let's say, Sam Harris, I'm going to be the first in line to tell them, hey, quit doing that.
Yeah, but he was referencing worship and praying too, and that seems so specific. I was just like, that seems a little hyperbolic there. But
I have a niece who has posters of certain boy bands in her room.
Okay.
Often
are you
before them and kissing them.
Okay, I'm just wondering, are you familiar with the concept of puberty? Because I think this may be a better explanation than actual worship.
You think that those two things are mutually exclusive?
No.
Perhaps it is more likely that puberty induces feelings of worship amongst the population.
Oh, they induce a lot of feelings.
And how would you describe that if not worship?
Do I have to say that word again? I would describe it as okay. So when kids grow up, they start developing these hormones, which sort of cloud their judgment for a few years. I mean, it's not always necessarily towards celebrities. Sometimes it's actual people that they know, which is yada, yada, yada. That's how the species perpetuates itself.
Wow. We just had the talk on TAE.
What are you trying to say in such covert language, Russell?
What?
It feels as if you're trying to make some sort of point, but you're weaseling your way around it.
I'm saying that your teenage girls are probably interested in sex right now.
And why would you believe that?
Because I know people.
Because of hormones?
Yeah.
I do not see how this would be related to my niece's attitude towards these boy bands. It seems very romantic.
You don't? Okay. Well, romantic love and sex are actually have a complex interaction with each other, right? I mean, I don't really know how much you need me to explain this stuff. Or I mean, are you married?
Church. My nieces come to church every week.
And so you think they never think about sex?
They think about the sinful things they think of due to sin and Adam, but everyone thinks of something. That doesn't mean I think of genocide every day. I think of
really.
Okay,
that doesn't seem typical to me. But I mean, unless
you think of the Holocaust, do you not think of genocide?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think about it every day, but I mean, I'm concerned about genocide and give it a significant amount of thought. Sure.
Well, this is what I mean.
But I don't think that's what your nieces are thinking when they look at their posters.
You engage in it.
What?
Russell?
I said the audio cut out a little.
Your call is a little choppy.
In the thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, could you say that last part again?
Simply having thoughts of a thing does not show that you approve or are interested in engaging in the thing in question.
All right. Okay. So, I mean, I guess would it be fair to say that the people you know who have very high regard for Sam Harris or anyone, that doesn't necessarily mean that they worship them?
I think it exists on a gradient.
Me too.
Sure.
And I think again, common ground.
Who do you view as the most passionate and devoted people in the world?
Who do you vote?
Which people do you feel are the most passionate and devoted to a certain idol? Is it teenage girls, or is it North Koreans or Christians in your view?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that is a... I'm not sure who I would fall in.
I don't know. What about fundamentalist Christians? Do I get to include those too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And fundamentalist Christians are aligned in their worship
and again, given the choice, given the question, do I think fundamentalist Christians are more or less devoted than North Koreans? That they seem very similar to me, so that's a tough call too.
And what about teenage girls then towards their idols and famous boys and whatever?
I mean, the thing about puberty is that you get older most of the time, and but for a while, like, you were a teenage boy once, I assume. Were you ever really into somebody so much?
Romantic passion will fade.
Yeah, were you ever really so into a girl or anyone that like you thought about them constantly for a while? I was.
I would say there was a character on the soap opera that I was during that age. It was.
There was a certain cartoon mermaid that I couldn't get out of my head for a few months.
Oh dear.
Do you feel that the passion of infatuation is always fleeting within humans?
No. People have lots of different experiences, and some people don't get more mature about the objects of their obsessions.
Do you not believe that teenage girls and perhaps boys to some extent, or adult or child boys who obsess over superheroes or sportsmen, do you not feel that these people are the most devoted to their idols?
Okay, I've lost track of what your point was.
Barring true Christians who are devoted, of course, to the Lord.
Huh?
Do you feel that as you get older, your devotion to idols diminishes in general?
Ideally, yes.
We do not live in an ideal world, Russell.
Okay. Well,
so
there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who don't get over their love of whatever they're devoted to.
I do believe I must have a word with my sister about my niece's behaviour.
Oh,
how would you recommend I go about it?
Okay. If your nieces are ever listening to this show, I'm sorry, you guys. I tried.
I mean, I'm not sure where this was going. Honestly, it started off as obsession with entertainers or things like, and maybe people focusing too much on that, and then turned into boy bands, little girls in boy bands.
Noticed? I assume that both of you are devoted to science in some regard.
I think that science is an important principle for learning about the way the world really world. So,
then allow me to frame this in a way that an atheist would agree with.
Okay.
Do you not see in the world that science is so important, and yet the things that people pay attention to are things like reality TV stars who do nothing meaningful with
I can't stand most reality TV personally.
That's you personally.
Yeah.
Do you not see this as a problem with society?
Does it bug me when people are getting obsessed with what seems like trivial nonsense? Yes. And I try to talk them out of it at every opportunity if they are getting so obsessed with something that it seems unhealthy.
Do you feel that people are always drawn to the stupider aspects of the world?
Always?
Or
No.
always, yeah, I would disagree with that.
In general, as a society?
Not necessarily. I have a lot of positive optimism that about people in general that I can tell you don't share.
Upon which evidence is this founded?
Huh?
Upon which evidence is this optimism founded?
All the wonderful people that I know in the atheist community and all the people I've talked to, even people like yourself with whom I wildly disagree, but who seems to be coming from a place of genuinely caring for people and being concerned about people's well-being, no matter how misguided I might think your solutions are.
Then you are focused, I believe, on a bias in which you view primarily the people with whom you interact as a subset, as a cross-section of society as a whole. You may
was that a question?
Many people who agree with you, but on the wider scale of things, there is so much horror and stupidity in the world.
There's a lot of horror and stupidity in the world, absolutely.
I feel that the horror and stupidity greatly outweighs the truthful devotion towards the proper things.
The proper things being...
You and I may disagree on that one, but I would like to find some common ground.
Okay.
I do not believe people should be more focused on science.
Not necessarily. Depends on if it's their thing. I mean, yes, in general, I think people should get a better understanding and appreciation of science. But you seem to be putting science in a role that you would understand, which is the object of single-minded worship and devotion. And I don't think people should be heading in that direction.
Let me ask you this then.
Okay. But we are seriously running out of time, so when you ask it, do it with an eye towards wrapping up the conversation on a note you will be satisfied with.
Very well. Allow me to ask you this. Why is it, in your view, that celebrities like the Kardashians and Donald Trump are so much more popular than celebrities who I assume you would admire, such as Brian Cox or
I barely know anything
Noam
about
Chomsky?
Brian Cox. I know a little bit about Noam Chomsky.
You understand the main gist of my question.
I do, but I think you're assuming that there are people that I hold in that level of regard and focus as, let's say, Jesus for you, or boy bands for your teenage girls, and I don't.
Have such devotion to Beyonce.
Right. Yeah.
Do not have this devotion towards more respectable people.
More respectful people. Wow, that's so.
This is not meant as a slight to Beyonce, of course.
Of course, you can't insult the queen bee. I got you.
Yeah. Phil, I can see Phil bristling over here.
But I mean, you're saying that don't you think people should be? Don't we? Asking us, do we think more people should be focused on more, I guess, scientifically minded individual versus,
or more interest in building out their knowledge base.
But I mean, it's hard to
I have a
dictate
good
this.
way of phrasing it here.
It's hard to dictate to someone what they should like and what they should find entertaining. People go out
Look at
and
all
see
these hubristic sportsmen, hubristic sports idols who have beat their women and do drugs and all these horrible things, and they get so much adulation.
Right, sure.
But why is it this way? Why do people not direct their adulation towards more worthy people?
Why do they need to direct adulation toward anything? I think that adulation is not that
adulation towards someone. Why must they devote it to these people?
I would suggest, as a start, to ask someone who does have devotion towards one of these people, as far as what you interpret, ask them why they feel that way and try to see where they're coming from. Like you're saying, why do they prefer this person versus this person, which they should be admiring? And I'm not sure if that's going to follow people or be able to be practically applied to
such illogical defenses of their idols. When I questioned my nieces, when I questioned why they love a certain boy band, despite the horrible things they do and the laws they break and the vile messages they propagate, they simply excuse them and say, they're not really like that. Oh, they're lovely people. They're
psychology is complicated, man. People get into all kinds of like bad mindsets about things that they should know better about. People get into abusive relationships. People experience cognitive dissonance, which is a term that you ought to look up because it has a lot to do with what you're saying. Maybe not a lot to do with your main point, but you're asking why people behave in harmful ways, and that's really complicated, and there's lots and lots written about it.
Yeah, I would suggest start looking up that type of thing if that's what you're interested in, versus calling an Atheist Experience show to ask why does the world do things in this manner versus what they should be focusing on over here.
I not feel that people worship money.
Some do.
Yeah, as far as I can see.
How would you define worship?
This is too much for. I mean, we are actually like 8 minutes over when I was planning to end the show. But so
I must conclude this call by saying deeply troubled by the atheist movement.
Okay,
and all the
but
ramifications that
again, I think you're blaming stuff on the atheist movement that we don't necessarily. Yeah, I still think you're just blaming stuff on the atheist movement that you don't like, without looking into whether we actually caused it or whether it is equally to pin on deeply religious people as well.
When people are worshipping their false idols, they are not thinking of the Lord Jesus.
Yep, and neither am I. Okay. Thank you for calling.
Okay.
I'll talk to you, maybe not next time, but some other time. I'm sure we'll talk again.
All right.
Don't sin too much.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Phil.